Ladies and gentlemen, there's a specific kind of numbness you have to develop to be a Chelsea fan these days. It's not the righteous anger of a Liverpool fan or the existential dread of a Spurs fan. It's the hollow, confused melancholy of a king who's been deposed, stripped of his finery, and forced to work a 9-to-5 sorting spreadsheets for a private equity firm that doesn't understand what offside is. You go into every weekend expecting nothing. You look at your $115 million midfielder and your $88 million winger, and you feel pity. You see, supporting most bad teams is simple. They're just bad. Supporting this Chelsea is a complex psychological ordeal. You're living proof that having all the money in the world doesn't just fail to buy you happiness. It actively buys you a specific high-priced designer brand of misery. You are the walking embodiment of a monkey's paw. You wish to be rich and relevant forever. Well, congratulations, the paw curled. And now you're stuck with Todd Boehly. Let's get into it. 1. The American dream is apparently mediocrity. Imagine waking up one day to discover your life is now being run by a golden retriever who just won the lottery. He's enthusiastic, he's got a lot of cash, but he has absolutely zero idea what a house is, so he keeps trying to sign a 10-year lease on a fire hydrant. That is what happened when the Clearlake Boehly consortium rolled into Stamford Bridge. We've gone from a cold, ruthless Bond villain oligarch who, let's be honest, at least knew football and demanded trophies, to a committee of American venture capitalists who genuinely, unironically, asked if they could play a 4-4-3 formation and suggested an all-star game. He said that, out loud, to a room full of people. He looked at the Premier League, a 130-year-old institution built on pyramid structures and relegation, and said, "You know what this needs? A meaningless exhibition game between North and South. That's your owner. That's the guy signing the checks. The man thinks he bought the Los Angeles Dodgers of soccer, and oh, the checks he has signed. Over £1 billion, a billion, with a B, to finish 12th, and then 6th. They spent more money in 18 months than most countries have in their defence budget, all to assemble a squad with the tactical cohesion of a toddler's birthday party. The plan apparently was to just buy every promising 19-year-old on earth and lock them into 8-year contracts. This isn't a football strategy, it's a financial strategy called amortization. It's the sporting equivalent of buying a $5,000 sofa on buy now, pay later, knowing full well you'll be sick of it in 2 years, but you're still paying for it in 2031. Except the sofa, in this case, is Mykhailo Mudryk, and he keeps tripping over the cushions. 2. Gotta buy 'em all. The $1 billion project. Let's talk about the project. Because every time a Chelsea fan hears the word project, they should be allowed to punch a hole in a wall. Trust the process, they say. What process? The process of actively making the team worse. It's like watching someone try to build a house by buying the most expensive materials possible. Marble toilets, titanium door handles, diamond-encrusted light switches, and then just throwing them all in a pile in a muddy field and calling it architecture. They didn't build a squad, they built a portfolio. They bought assets, and like any bad portfolio, it's completely unbalanced. They have 17 attacking midfielders who all want to play in the same 10-yard patch of grass, and their only option at striker for 18 months was a man who seemed physically allergic to the goal. Remember the summer of 2023? Chelsea and Liverpool got into a bidding war for Moises Caicedo. Caicedo openly, publicly and desperately wanted Liverpool. Chelsea's response? No, you don't. They essentially kidnapped him, threw $115 million at Brighton and locked him in Cobham. Then, just to be funny, they did the exact same thing 1 week later with Romeo Lavia, who also wanted Liverpool. They spent over $170 million on 2 players who didn't want to be there, just so another team couldn't have them. This isn't team building. This is the logic of a possessive, unstable ex-boyfriend. The result? A team of strangers, a collection of individuals who've never played together, signed on 8-year deals so they can't be sold, all developing at the same time. You know who else develops talent? The academy. The one thing at Chelsea that actually worked, which they've now gutted and sold off, Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher, Lewis Hall, to pay for the amortization on the kid from the Ecuadorian league no one's ever heard of. You're not a football club anymore. You're just a very, very confused scouting report. 3. The permanent revolution of managers. If you're a manager, getting hired by Chelsea is like being cast as the drummer in Spinal Tap. You know, statistically, that you're going to be gone in 18 months, probably in a bizarre or humiliating fashion. But under the new regime, they've managed to speed up the process to an almost comical degree. It's like they're trying to break a world record for most severance packages paid in a single fiscal year. Let's recap. They fired Thomas Tuchel, a Champions League winner, a guy the fans actually liked, 6 games into a new season, allegedly because he wouldn't play ball with the new vision. They replaced him with Graham Potter, a man whose entire tactical philosophy seemed to be vibe curation, and let's try and make a 3-5-2 with 7 wingers work. They gave him a 5-year contract, said he was the future, and backed him with $300 million in January. Then they fired him 31 games later, once they realised vibe curation doesn't stop you from losing 1-0 to the bottom of the league. Who did they bring in to save the day, to steady the ship? Frank Lampard. Again. The man whose previous managerial stint at the club was so uninspiring they fired him to hire Tuchel in the first place. It was the footballing equivalent of breaking up with your boyfriend, going on a disastrous 6-month rebound, and then crawling back to the original boyfriend, who it turns out is still terrible at this. The 2023 Lampard era was a masterpiece of failure. 11 games, 9 losses, 1 win, a win percentage of 9%. 9! Then came Pochettino. Ah, finally, you thought. A grown-up, a proper Premier League manager. And for one glorious month it looked okay. And then you realise the owners had just done the same thing again. They hired a top manager and gave him an impossible squad of 25 children and no striker, demanding he build a project, while also demanding win right now. It's a job that isn't a job. It's a hostage situation with a great salary. You don't just watch the games, you watch the existential crisis unfold on the touchline, as yet another good manager realises he's been conned. 4. The billion-pound midfield. That plays like $1 million. Let's talk about the engine room, the spine, the foundation upon which this project is built. I am, of course, referring to the $222 million double pivot of Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo. That is not a typo. Chelsea Football Club spent £222 million on 2 central midfielders. For that price, you'd expect them to be a hybrid of Patrick Vieira, Zinedine Zidane, and a very reliable Toyota Hilux. You'd expect them to control the game, score goals, create chances, and probably solve the looming energy crisis. Instead, you watch them get bullied every single week. By whom? By everyone. By Luton Town's midfield, by Nottingham Forest's midfield, by Bournemouth's midfield, by players who cost, in some cases, less than what Enzo pays for a haircut. You spent a combined $250 million on a midfield that gets pressed by one guy and just panics. It's the most expensive traffic cone setup in the history of sports. Enzo, the World Cup winner, the 107mm man. His main contribution seems to be a 70-yard Hollywood pass that goes straight to the opposition keeper, and a look of profound existential sadness. Then there's Caicedo, $115 million, the most expensive player in British history. A man who was supposed to be a one-man wrecking crew, a Kante 2.0. He's been fine, sometimes, when he's not giving away penalties or getting dribbled past like he's not there. The only thing he consistently wrecks is Chelsea's wage structure and their FFP calculations. And we haven't even mentioned Mudryk, $88 million. A player who looks like he learned football by watching YouTube highlight reels of other players. He has 2 moves, run very fast in a straight line, and then fall over. He is a glitch in the Matrix, a player of terrifying pace and 0-0 end product. You watch him wind up for a shot and you don't feel excitement. You feel a genuine fear for the safety of the fans in the upper tier. This isn't an attack, it's a cry for help, rendered in terrible, expensive decisions. 5. The Stamford Bridge of size. Remember when Stamford Bridge was a fortress? Remember when us against the world wasn't just a marketing slogan, but a genuine feeling? Remember when you had a team of absolute bastards, Drogba, Terry, Costa, who would win at all costs, who would bleed for the shirt and who away fans despised with a burning passion? Yeah, well, now you have a team of 21-year-olds on 8-year contracts who look genuinely surprised when an opposition player tackles them. The entire identity of the club has been surgically removed and replaced with potential. You're not a football club, you're a long-term real estate investment. The atmosphere in the stadium reflects this. It's not a fortress anymore, it's a library. It's a convention centre for influencers and tourists who are there to experience the brand, and are deeply confused as to why the home team can't string 3 passes together. The old guard, the fans who were there before the money, are left sitting there, arms crossed, watching the club they loved get turned into a focus-grouped content farm. And the club treats you, the fan, with the same bizarre detached logic. They sold the academy players you actually loved, the ones who got it, like Mount and Gallagher, to fund the purchase of another kid from League Two who's one for the future. They'll charge you $100 for a ticket to watch that kid develop, which is just a polite word for make mistakes. You've become a paying spectator for someone else's Football Manager save file. You're not supporting a team, you're beta testing a portfolio. 6 from hated to hilarious. This, ultimately, is the greatest misery of all. It's the final, cruelest twist of the knife. You see, for 20 years, being a Chelsea fan meant being the villain. You've got no history, they'd shout. Rent boys, they'd cry. And you'd just point at the trophy cabinet. You were hated, yes, but you were hated because you were winners. You were the rich, ruthless, soulless machine that turned up, ruined everyone's day, and left with the cup. It was a beautiful, toxic arrogance. Where is that now? Gone. Because now nobody hates you, they pity you, or even worse, they laugh at you. You're not a rival anymore, you're a punchline, you're content. Arsenal fans, Liverpool fans, Spurs fans, they don't fear you. They look at your fixture on the schedule and pencil it in as 3 points. They see you spend $115 million on a midfielder just to watch him get outrun by a 32-year-old from Fulham. They watch your $88 million winger Sky another shot into Row Z, and they don't feel anger, they feel amusement. You've spent over £1 billion to become the single greatest source of banter in a league that already includes Tottenham Hotspur. This is the true pain of being a Chelsea fan in the modern era. It's not the losing, it's the way you lose. It's not the spending, it's the sheer staggering incompetence of the spending. It's the slow, agonising realisation that all the money, all the trophies, all the pride of London stuff is all culminated in this. You're not the Empire anymore. You're just a very, very expensive circus. So yeah, you're stuck. You're trapped in a long-term, high amortization project with no end in sight, run by people who think a winger is a type of chicken. Why do we do this? I don't know. Subscribe anyway. 7. The Bipolar Express. A team that makes no sense. There is no fan experience in sports more psychologically damaging than inconsistent Chelsea. This isn't your normal, garden variety up and down form. This is a full-blown, clinically diagnosable identity disorder. This team is a coin flip. It's Schrodinger's cat, but the cat is also a $115 million midfielder, and he's both brilliant and absolutely terrible until the 90th minute. You, the fan, are forced to live in this state of permanent confusion. You'll go to Stamford Bridge one week and watch your team get methodically taken apart by Nottingham Forest. At home, you will watch them fail to string 2 passes together against a team that cost less than Moises Caicedo's agent fee. You will leave the stadium convinced this is the worst Chelsea team in 30 years. You will renounce your faith. You will swear off football. Then, 7 days later, you'll play Manchester City. And you'll win! Or you'll draw 4-4 in an absolute epic. Cole Palmer will look like Zidane, Enzo will look like Pirlo, and the defence will look, for 90 minutes, like an actual professional defence. You'll think, wait, are we good? Is the project working? You'll get that little, stupid, dangerous flicker of hope. And then, the very next week, you'll travel to Brentford and get comprehensively bullied for 90 minutes, losing 2 or so and looking like you've never seen a long ball before. This is the cycle. It doesn't stop. There is no logic. There is no form. There is only chaos. You can't enjoy the good results because you just know, a humiliating loss to a relegation battler is right around the corner. And you can't just wallow in the bad results because the team will randomly pull a world-class performance out of nowhere just to remind you that the potential is there, making the failure even more frustrating. It's a team designed to give you whiplash. It's not a project. It's a long-running psychological experiment to see how much cognitive dissonance a single human brain can endure before it snaps. 8. The Bermuda Triangle on the 6-yard box. There is a specific, unique kind of dread that settles in your stomach when a Chelsea forward is clean through on goal. For any other club, this is a moment of anticipation. For you, it's a preemptive cringe. You're not thinking goal, that you're thinking, which part of the L in El Post is he going to hit? Because the number 9 shirt at Stamford Bridge isn't a privilege, it's a hazing ritual. It's a cursed artifact that has clinically destroyed the careers of some of the greatest strikers of a generation. This isn't a new problem. This is a generational curse. We're talking about a club that took Andriy Shevchenko, a Ballon d'Or winner, and turned him into a man who looked like he'd want to be a footballer for a day competition. We're talking about Fernando Torres, a man who terrorised defences for Liverpool, who cost 50 million and immediately looked like his boots were filled with wet cement. Alvaro Morata, who seemed to be philosophically opposed to being onside. And then, the masterpiece, Romelu Lukaku, again. Not content with failing him once, Chelsea paid $97.5 million for a man who was allegedly the final piece of the puzzle. He was. The puzzle was, how can we set $100 million on fire in the most public way possible? He arrived, complained about the tactics, gave that disastrous interview to Sky Italia declaring his love for Inter Milan, and was promptly banished. The club is still paying for him. They spent a record fee on a player who, less than 6 months later, was openly auditioning for other jobs while on the payroll. This lineage of failure has led you to Nicholas Jackson, a man who is less a striker and more a kinetic sculpture about the concept of almost. He runs a lot, he presses, he gets in all the right positions, and then, when the ball arrives, he does something. It's not a shot, it's not a pass, it's just an event, a chaotic, leg-flailing event that usually ends with the ball in the stands or him getting a yellow card for shouting at the ref. You spent £1 billion and your primary goal-scoring threat is a man who collects more cards than goals and seems to be in a personal season-long battle with the concept of finishing. 9. Cobham, more like Soldham. For a decade, through all the managerial chaos and questionable transfers, you had one thing to cling to. One pure, undeniable good. Cobham, the academy. It was, without question, the best talent factory on the planet. It was churning out Champions League-ready players. You finally achieved the dream. The 2021 Champions League final was won with a core of academy boys. Mason Mount, Reece James. It was built, not bought. It was real. And then the new owners turned up, looked at this diamond-producing machine and said, fantastic, let's sell the diamonds to pay for some shiny rocks we found in South America. This is the part that feels like a genuine betrayal. They looked at pure profit on a spreadsheet, and their venture capitalist brains exploded. See, when you sell an academy player, it's 100% profit in the FFP books. And what does 100% profit do? It balances the books for the 115 million you just panic spent on Moises Caicedo. They are, quite literally, selling the club's soul to pay for the club's mistakes. So, Mason Mount, the future of the club, Mr. Chelsea, sold. To Manchester United, Fikayo Tomori and Mark Guehi, two of the best young centre-backs in the league, sold. To fund the purchase of Kalidou Koulibaly, who was then sold a year later at a massive loss. Lewis Hall, a brilliant prospect, sold. Conor Gallagher, a guy who would literally run through a brick wall for the badge, the only player who seems to care. He's been on the transfer block every single window, relentlessly shopped around so they can afford another 19-year-old who fits the model. You, the fan, are forced to watch players who love the club get pushed out the door to make room for mercenaries who are on 8-year contracts. You're no longer the club that produces England's best talent. You're just a high-end feeder club for Crystal Palace, Newcastle and your direct rivals. Also, the project can afford its next expensive failure. 10. Your other club is Strasbourg. For years, Chelsea's loan army was a running joke. The club was less a football team and more a talent-hoarding dragon, sitting on a pile of 40 players, from Timur Bakayoko to Kennedy, scattered across the globe, all slowly depreciating in value. It was weird, it was cynical, but it was your weird, cynical strategy. But the new owners, in their infinite American wisdom, looked at this and said, this isn't efficient enough. We need synergy. And thus, the multi-club model was born. They didn't just want to loan players, they wanted to buy an entirely different club to act as a parking lot for their assets. Enter RC Strasbourg, a historic, proud French club instantly demoted to Chelsea B. You, as a Chelsea fan, are now tangentially responsible for this. You now have to care about a team in Alsace, not because you want to, but because it's the only place your owners can legally stash the 19-year-old Brazilian winger you just signed and can't get a work permit for. It's the football equivalent of your rich dad buying a fixer-upper house just to store his excess furniture. The French fans naturally hate this. They are actively protesting your owners. They are holding up banners telling Blue Co to get out. They see their club being stripped for parts, their own identity erased, just to serve as a development squad for a dysfunctional Premier League team. Meanwhile, you have to watch this, knowing it's all being done in your name, with your club's money. It's not about football, it's not about glory. It's about leveraging assets and creating pathways. It's the single most sterile, corporate, joyless concept imaginable, and it has your club's fingerprints all over it. You didn't ask for this. You just wanted to watch 11 guys in blue kick a ball. Now you're an unwilling participant in a hostile takeover of a club you'd never even heard of. Also, your 12th choice winger can develop by playing in front of a fan base that despises his very existence. Congratulations. You're not just a fan, you're a junior partner in a soulless venture capital scheme. So, you're left with an overpriced, underperforming, confusingly managed portfolio that moonlights as a football team. It's not a club, it's a billion-pound case of buyer's remorse. Why do we still watch? Because we're idiots. That's why. See you next week for more amortization.